Let's continue our discussion about the measure of output. Let's check out the second question here. If one buys a used car, is it supposed to be part of output this year? Again, you can pause the video and think about it. When we talk about the output, we always need to specify the period of time when the goods and services are produced. For example, we would like to say what is the output this year, or what is the output this quarter or this month. Okay, so that means it has to be made or produced within that specified period of time. Okay, therefore there's no used goods that will be included. Okay, like this car you find in the picture. If it's a used car, we are assuming it was produced in previous years, so it has already been counted as a previous year's output, and we don't want to double count it. Okay, it's not produced this year, so we don't spend any productive resources on its production this year. That's why it's not part of the output for this year. Okay, and there's no financial assets involved either. Okay, and so here we would like to introduce the second key phrases in the definition of the measure of output. We said here it should be the market value, which we discussed before, right? The market value of all goods and services produced in a year. Okay. Here, to use a different way to demonstrate the reason why the used goods are not going to be included is to show you the difference between stocks and flows. In other words, there are two types of variables which captures two different things. Okay, now here we're going to use a very simple real-world example to show you the difference. What you see on the screen is a bathtub with a faucet, and you can see water coming out from the faucet and into the bathtub, right? So if I ask you how many gallons of water in the bathtub, that is a stock or a stock variable. Okay, it measures the amount, the cumulative amount, okay, over like a long period of time probably. And when I ask you how many gallons of water are coming out of the faucet per minute or per hour, that is a flow or a flow variable. Okay, so when we talk about the stock, we don't have to specify the amount of time. Okay, you can just simply tell me, from what you see or what you can measure, how many gallons of water in the tub. But when we talk about the flow, we have to specify. Okay, so here again, you can use this idea to figure out why we don't want to include any financial assets. In other words, when we talk about our output this year, we don't include any stocks, bonds, mutual funds, hedge funds, or any type of financial or monetary resources. Okay, now you can think about this, and if you still have any questions about it, we can discuss it during our virtual meeting. The next question is, if you wash your car by yourself, is it supposed to be part of the output this year? Now, the very first thing we need to clarify before answering this question is, when we talk about output, it covers both goods and services. Okay, so if we buy a laptop, that is a good, right? It's visible, it's tangible. But if we get a car wash service from someone else, let's see, that's a service. Okay, it may not be tangible or visible, but it's still a type of output because we still spend time, energy, and other productive resources delivering or producing or delivering the service. Okay. Now again, you can pause the video and think about what your response to this question is. Here, we probably need to be more careful about the way the question is phrased. The question says, is it supposed to be part of the output this year? So basically, we're talking about you wash your car by yourself. It's one of the DIY things, right? We do a lot of DIY things at home, like mow the yards and fix some of the furnitures, appliances, right? And wash cars. So all of these DIY things should be included. Again, because when we say output, we do not specify this got to be the output made for others. Okay? If we just made for ourselves, we still spend our time, energy doing that. It still should be included. But in practice, they are not included in our output. Why? Simply because the government has no way to trace all the way back and figure out how much these, or how many units of the productive resources involved, and what would be the prices for each of them. Okay, so for example, when we talk about this car wash you do for yourself, how many hours you actually spend, right? Or many of you probably had babysitting experiences. Do you still remember how many hours you actually spent babysitting last year, right? Even ourselves, oftentimes we did not keep a record of these, right? So not to mention the government, they don't have any idea about, how much we input, okay, in terms of time and any other resources. They also don't know what's going to be the fair price of our, DIY things. Okay, if I wash my own car, is that comparable to, all of these professional car wash services out there, which I have to pay? Or your babysitting experience, right? How would that compare to the daycare centers out there? The government has no idea about that. Okay, so here we would like to introduce the third key phrase in our definition. The measure of output should be the market value of all goods and services produced for the market price in a year. We emphasized for the market price simply because practically that means the government can trace back this information, okay, about the quantity, about the price. Okay, if there's a market where people buy and sell, then it will be pretty easy for government to figure out what is the market price. Okay, and the quantity, how much has been bought and sold on the market. All right. Now, In the next video, we're gonna continue to check out the very last question about the measure of output.